question for this week, it's aligned a little bit with the topic of the discussion for today. And the question is, what makes you a TC member? So that's the topic for today. And welcome, Janacy. Nice to see you around. So I will pass it on to Manu.
Thank you, Edu. So the question being, what makes me a TC member? Um, well, think a little bit. I think what makes me a TC member is that I am not doing this for the money. Like, I'm doing this for the ideals that we're espousing. I'm doing this to advance what I feel is the most impactful new discipline and our generation's answer to a lot of the structural global problems that have been left idle and decaying and rotting and festering for so long. So what makes me a TEC member is my conviction of pursuing solutions and of sharing what I know and what I'm learning about this new discipline with others around me. I try to be as selfless as I can, given my limitations. But yeah, I think that's what makes me a TEC member, at least on my eyes. And I will pass it to Gideon.
Thanks, Manu. Well, actually, I would echo a lot of what Manu just said. For me, I think about, I've written about a lot this the future of humanity and our relationship with machines. And I think that token engineering is that interface, the connection between machines and our economy and society and people. And so I actually think that this community has a much bigger role than any of us currently even imagine. Actually, I think we are working on the governance of token engineering, and that token engineering is the future fabric of our economy, and that's what decides the relationship between humans and machines. So I think we are a community where we understand the technology and we understand the cultural layer, and we're weaving that together. I think it's super. I mean, there's nothing more important in my view. So how's that? I really do believe that, though. Okay, I will pass it on to Costa.
Hello, everyone. I still feel like I'm new to the community. I'm still trying to find my right place in it, but I definitely fall in line with the ideals of decentralization and giving importance to the human value in a fast forward moving society. As what I bring to the table as a TC member, I would say that I like writing, reading, and organizing files and proper, precise communication. So that's it. I'll pass it on to Tam.
Thanks, Costa. I think I feel like you guys answered it so philosophically and intellectually and emotionally and spiritually, and I really loved it. I'm gonna go with something really just pragmatic, which is what does it mean to be a member of a DAO? Because I feel like that's actually a difficult question to answer, right? Are you a token holder? Are you active in the community? Where is the boundary of membership in a DAO with such porous membranes? So, and I've been thinking about this a lot, and I think that to be a member of a community, you're contributing to that community. But you could also buy your way into a DAO, right? So I think it comes to like token holders. And one of the greatest things about the way the TEC works is you earn tokens from your contributions. So our reward system is like coming back online now. So I think some people who are new to our community might not be feeling that yet. But for a long time, as our reward system, when it was active, when it was online, every 2 weeks you earn your tokens. So you sort of earn your membership by your blood, sweat, and tears, as well as people who sort of acquire tokens, participate in governance. And so I'd say the things that make people like spiritual part of this community is their engagement with the community. So contributions, communications, relationship building. But I think a member is anyone who's a token holder, because they can steer the direction of the parameters for our DAO, changes to our DAO, the funding. So in some way, having governance over the TC is that membership. I don't know who hasn't gone, so I'm going to pass back to you, Edu.
Sure. Welcome, Benz, Livy, and Enti. So we are having the open conversation, the open question, which is what makes you a TEC member? And I will pass it on to Septi.
Thank you. It's good to go again after time, because I actually think as the same. Like I feel like you are as much member as the DAO, like depending on the stake. What's the phrase? The skin in the game. Yeah, that was the word I was looking for. And because like people can, if people is working for the DAO, getting money, even selling the tokens, and they are I feel like somehow they are connected with the DAO, but they are not making decisions because they are just selling the tokens. They are just to generate some revenue for themselves, which is good. Like as long as the DAO is doing a good work, like the DAO is being benefit from their work. So at this point, it's good, even if they are selling their tokens. But that's not bad. But for me, like to be a member of the DAO, you have to hold tokens and make direction for the DAO. I really align with them. I'll pass it to Livy.
Thanks, Up. What makes me a TC member? I think the contributions I give. I think very personally, I would feel less of a member if I just had tokens and didn't really participate. I think technically I would still be a member, but I think the more present and engaged and interested and connected with the people, that's what makes me feel like a member. And I'll pass to Enti.
Thanks, Livy. I guess there are many kinds of members, like many tiers of members. So like there's many, like I was thinking about this, like DAOs usually fit everyone into the work community, but inside the community you have contributors, you have people that are just sort of using the products, users, whatever. So I think the definition of membership would depend on the involvement of the user. But in that same sense, I think that's the definition of being a member, being involved with the TEC, even if it's just using any kind of TEC product or whatever. That makes you a member. You may not be a contributor, for example, but that's a member still. Yes. I'm not sure who hasn't gone yet.
No problem. I will pass it on to Benz.
Hey, yeah, I think I agree with a lot of what has already been said. I think there are tokens that I hold that I guess I'm a token holder in that community, but I don't feel like I'm like really plugged into that community. And yeah, like when you're actually voting, participating in governance, contributing, I feel like you're much more of a member, but at least that's how I feel when I participate. So yeah, maybe it's like kind of this tiered thing of like token holder, community member, contributor. But I wouldn't want to like put a top-down classification like that either. Maybe. So
All
am I
right.
the last one?
I want to welcome Paulo. Welcome to the Communitas Working Group Sync. We are talking about membership and what makes someone a member of a DAO. Like, what will be the boundaries? What is your own definition that makes you feel like a member of the DAO? So I will give you some time to think, and if you feel like introducing yourself, you are welcome to. And in the meantime, I will pass it on to Janacy.
Hi everyone. Well, for me, let's see. Well, I want to believe that I am a valuable member of this community, especially when I can contribute with ideas or by helping the community with my knowledge. What is true is I would like to integrate myself more and be able to contribute more, much more with the TSC. That's for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Janacy. Paulo, are you ready to introduce yourself and to answer the question, what makes you a member of a DAO?
Hey, how are you? I'm Paulo. I'm Brazilian, but living in Barcelona. I've been in this space since 2018, but working since 2020. I've been contributing with a bunch of projects. This is my first months in this venture of a DAO, and yeah, it's for me, it's exploration and trying to understand what is the best or what is the thing that I can help the most. I know that there is a lot of work in terms of DAOs, but I want to explore and I want to understand how can I work and how can I help everyone. I'm a software engineer, and beside this, I'm running a project called Questive. We are trying to bring together a lot of DAO tooling and for a CRM, so you understand the behavior of your holders. This is something that we are trying to build. And yeah, my collaboration can be trying to not only bring something like a tool, but being a key person that can help to connect people with my network, or I don't know. It's an exploration for me, and I really want to understand how can I help you to grow, and how can I be the person that it's a key person in this community and co-create with everyone.
Thank you so much, Paula. And you arrived to the right working group call. We are a Communitas working group, and we tackle what is a little bit about handling the community and onboarding and all these processes. And you will see here that there are two guides present on this call. One is Maumanu Costa, or even myself. And this is to say, in case you want to have a further conversation or you leave this call confused, feel free to reach any of these two persons with DMs or whatever, and we will be here to help you. And Bear 100, you are the last one. Would you like to answer the question? Yeah, there you go. Thank you, bro. 100. All right. So I think everyone has gone. So this conversation.
I don't think Ken went. Sorry to
Oh
interrupt you.
yes, Ken. No, it's okay. Ken Granville, welcome to the Communitas working group call. I saw you were silent on your headsets. That's why I didn't pass into you. Do you feel like introducing yourself to the rest of the community?
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
I'm new to Discord. I'm embarrassed. I'm a technologist, and it took me a while to figure stuff out. Maybe because I'm an OG, and so I'm calling myself out here. So I'll do a quick intro.
Sure.
I'm the CEO and co-founder of a company called Mind Active, and we're launching a platform called WantVerse.io. We've literally been developing for 11 years a capability to transition from software to what we call wantware, which is the ability to describe using natural language or any signaling methodology, gestures, brainwaves, what have you. We process all of those as inputs into a unified pipeline that transforms them all to machine instructions in real time, using a semantically intelligent approach. And to be specific, that is 256 elements, like the periodic table, but these represent machine behaviors, and they also map back to languages. And so if you think about it, it solves perhaps the most fundamental problem in computing, which is coding. Much is lost in translation. And there's the challenge of interpreting what someone intended when they wrote a piece of code. And of course, there's all the potential errors. And this is not an anti-coder thing. It is solutions-oriented people look for the best possible tool to solve the problem. And we can show how this solves an enormous array of problems, including foundational ones as it pertains to vulnerabilities in computing, and then accessibility. I'm sure most of the coders know that less than a third of 1% of the people on the planet know how to code. So this is a solution that includes them and the other 99% of people. So I'll stop there.
No problem. So this is a working group sync for talking about the community, basically. We all having issues with Discord. Don't worry. Like it takes a little bit of time to actually catch up into it.
Yeah.
So I will invite you to join the orientation call that also happens on Thursday, 7 p.m.
Okay.
CT, Central European Time.
Okay.
All our calls are open like this one, so everyone is welcome to stay. And if you have any question at the end of this meeting, you can send a message to Manu or to myself, and we will provide you support or help you with anything that is needed. And if you feel also like sharing your project, please do. The links, website, on the ideas channel, and I would love to take a look at it. Thank you for
All
your
right.
introduction.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. And all right, so the context of this question, what makes you a member of the TEC, is a conversation we were having with Gideon on Friday. And the question came about the workflows that we are designing for the TEC in general. And it's about membership and how, for example, we're talking about if you are a visitor, and from a visitor you become a newcomer, and from a newcomer you become a new member, and from new member you become a member. And we were talking about the intersections and what makes you trigger, what makes you become a newcomer, what makes you become a new member, and what makes you become a member. And we were having this back and forth in the discussion, and we were talking about the decision making layer. So we were discussing and arguing if when someone holds a token on the TEC, that makes them transition in between a new member to a member. So I will pass it on to Gideon. Gideon, take it away, and you can You explain better than I do, so please do.
Okay, thanks, Edu. I don't know if I explain things better than you do. I don't necessarily believe that. I'm going to share my screen. And so, can you all see that? So this is, this was my best attempt to try to distill the conversation that Edu and I had on Friday, which was in some ways a distillation of some of the conversations we were having earlier in the week, last week, and then this has been several months brewing. So, so what you see here, so what I'm going to do is just take a couple minutes to explain this flow, and then there's some natural questions that, just like last week, I think will be good for us to just kind of like take some breaks along the way and ask these questions of everybody. So what you can see here is at the very top, you have, so this is like immediate. Somebody comes, lands on the Discord server. They're a visitor. They're validated by our bot. And when they're validated as humans, then they become a newcomer as a role. That then goes down to the newcomer here and the process that kicks off, which is basically this process right here, the newcomer onboarding. And you can see that also in here, which is the welcoming, here, this is the TEC onboarding process. So you see that you have a welcoming, you have understanding, helping people to increase their understanding of the TEC, and then you have an orientation process. So going back to this, you can now see those in the actual flow here. And this is probably happening over a matter, we don't want this to stretch out too long probably, but it's not going to be immediate and it's not going to be in one day. So maybe it's 1 to 2 weeks, maybe that's longer. So what happens is people come in and then we help connect them with the website and then also the TC handbook and probably some other materials where they can do some self-learning. We are also talking about doing some type of quiz maybe, or some kind of way of just kind of reinforcing, yes, this person did actually do this stuff and they have an understanding, a shared understanding, base level understanding of the TEC, its mission, history. Then there's an orientation process. That's actually, if the self-learning is kind of like the why we exist and the what we are, this is more like the how, the when, and the who, how things get done here. This is probably also like a series of steps of setting up accounts. Livy mentioned last week, wow, it'd be great to actually connect this up with the praise process and getting people connected on praise. But it's also probably getting them set up on Discourse and some other accounts, basic kind of like community level accounts. Maybe getting them signed up to Twitter, TEC Twitter, and maybe Medium. And this is the thing that we talked about last week, this idea of an initial community offering, which is, I'm not going to spend a whole bunch of time on that, but this idea that we give people some prompts and allow them to creatively express themselves as kind of like a way of showing that they're engaged, right? They're involved. And at the end of that process, then people go from being a newcomer to becoming a new member. And at that point, these are all kind of like some transition states here that happens. They receive a new member POAP. They have, and so for people who don't know what a POAP is, it's kind of like a certificate. It's like a blockchain-based certificate. It stands for Proof of Attendance Protocol. So then from there, they get access to, as part of this process, they have access to the community level accounts, like I just talked about. The ability, so then some of these things start to become some questions that we'll come back to, which is, at that point, they get the ability to dish and receive praise in the community. Then there's a question, do they have the ability to receive tokens and vote with those TEC tokens. And then there's this question of, do they have the ability to sell their tokens that they're earning at this point? So let's not answer those right now. I just want to call those out. This then goes around, and this is the process of moving from being a new member to a member. This is basically kind of like figuring out what people's interests are. And so I'm not going to go into too much focus here right now, because I'd like to come back to that maybe next week. But the basic idea is, right now, a lot of this happens with the one-on-one meetings with guides. We're trying to kind of route or usher people to the right working groups. I was having a great conversation with Nick last week about what they're doing in Omega, which is really interesting. It's a kind of a way of helping people kind of work together to identify their interests. And so she and I are talking about, like, maybe, and I was talking to Eduardo about this, about maybe there's some way that we can introduce something like that. It's a very human-centered approach to helping people find their way. At that point, people end up in a working group as a new member of a working group. I'm calling this next stage an apprenticeship, but I don't think that that's the right term. All of these terms are kind of placeholders at this point, as are actually a lot of these ideas. So this is meant as a kind of a catalyst for conversation at this point. But here, the idea is that at this point, people are doing some kind of like first level work in the community and in a working group. And at the end of that period, they become a member. So let's stop right there and maybe just open it up for comments and thoughts from people.
Sure. Just to provide context, the last questions from new member to member are the reason of the opening question for today. Basically, the point of where I think a lot of feedback will be needed is the idea of, if you're a new member, and this is where we also include the praise that Livy mentioned on the onboarding. Like, we were thinking on maybe the idea that when you become a member, it's because you are inside the praise system. So what makes you a member is being part of the praise, meaning you have the capacity to give and receive praise and so on. So that was an idea, because praise also means that you will receive tokens, meaning you will have access to governance. So the transition from new member to become a member is the capacity to have TC tokens and to do governance. So that was my take on it, and I will pass it on to Livy.
Thank you. There's so much here. This is so great. I love this initial community offering as like a gift, giving a gift to new members, and how we could, like, what is in that package, like how many goodies, like what you open it and what do you find? And yeah, I think the praise process could be somehow in the middle. Like maybe right after new member, or maybe in the initial community offering, like it's a gift to be able to receive praise. I mean, you would receive praise at any point, right? To maybe that's when you can dish praise, or it feels like, maybe we need to flesh it out a little bit more, that part.
Yeah.
But I really like that there is a visitor, newcomer, new member, and member. It feels very clean, this distinction. And also the guide matching with a group, like having a buddy. We've been talking about this for a long time, but we never could really implement so well. And maybe that moment is the moment you get like someone that will hold you by the hand and help you contribute. Yeah, I'll pass to Inesi.
Jinacy, if you are talking, you are muted. I will pass it out there.
No, sorry, I'm having internet issues here. So I need to pass it to anyone else because I couldn't hear properly the information. I'm sorry.
No problem, Janacy. If you wanna, no worries. If you want to take a look at the Figma is in the agenda of the call.
Awesome.
Tam, how about you?
I don't want to take too much time. I just love all of it. I love the thinking that went into it. I think it's very clean, and it most importantly helps the community know how to advance in the TEC. You know how they know their steps forward. Yeah, I really like the thinking that's going into this, and how we can, you know, help people know where they are. I think people feel comfortable when they know where they are in a community. And I think this is just sort of like, here's a super clean path forward. But I'd really like to hear from other people too. So I'm going to ask Benz, maybe pass to Benz.
I like this. I like this a lot. As far as like questions about what we're thinking about this, or just give feedback at this point.
Anything you feel like sharing?
Okay. Yeah, I think so. One thing I think that might differ from like person to person is just like timeline. I don't know. That probably isn't like set in stone, that stuff, but I think people might kind of learn and progress and come to TEC at like different points. So yeah, that might be something that. But I don't think we're like saying that's set in stone or anything. It's just an example. Processes that allow for like different timelines. Go ahead, Aiden. Sorry.
No, sorry to interrupt you. How about you, Enti? You have been here for a while. Do you feel like this is clearer than, or it will be helpful to have this when you arrive, for example?
Yeah. Actually, yeah. I think that's a really handful piece of content, or just I'm not really sure how to call that, but I think it gives both I'm guessing guides or whoever is sort of in charge of supervising, and also newcomers, a nice overview just to know where do they stand on, and how to move forward, because it's oftentimes challenging to enter a community and use them where is anything or how to. And I think that this is a really clever and well done piece. So praise to you, Gideon. I don't really have much to say, so I'll pass it over maybe to Costa.
I was actually like surprised by the timings because I think they kind of perfectly fit my evolution, like since I came to the TEC. And maybe as initial community offering, to me, it was kind of a gift, like the chance, even if it was a small task, to update the onboarding data Excel, and that was kind of my offering to get into the TEC. And maybe I would say that also the guide matching in my case would have happened at that moment when someone gave me tasks to do, small tasks to do. But for the rest, it looks like just like my timeline with TC.
Thank you.
That's all.
And there is a point of conflict. Not a point of conflict. There is something that we were sort of not very sure to open the question about, which is basically when do you sort of when do you give TC tokens, or when do you give TC tokens to someone in the community? At what point of this timeline does that person sort of have access? Because you can earn them at any moment, probably, but at what time or what moment or what part of the timeline you will have access to these tokens. And this is a part that Livy I will take or probably bring it up over to SoftGov to try to understand, because this is a decision that will affect probably the entire community in a sense. So for us, it was like, is this conflictive to decide or to seek for consensus? Depends. When a user on the journey of the TC can get access to their tokens. Does that make sense, Livy? My question.
You mean when? Can you repeat this?
Sure. At what point of this timeline does someone have access to their TC tokens, meaning access to governance? They can earn TC tokens or receive praise at any moment, but at what, like, when would be a good moment for someone to say, hey, you are a member, then you have access to your tokens?
Well, everybody has access to tokens at any time, right? People can buy in the open market. It's not something we are gatekeeping, or it's not also something we should, in my opinion. I think there's this ideas of developing a reputation system, and that would be something else that could probably be integrated together with this community offering, or like with the access to praise distribution. There was a question. So someone was trying to get the praise giver role, and now with the new bot, you need to give your address and all that. And someone was saying, "Oh, I'm not a new member anymore. Can I get access to praise giver?" And that doesn't exist, but I thought it was a good point. That, like, maybe once someone is a new member, they have access to dish praise.
Yeah, that's basically the question we are trying to figure out here. When do you, yeah, when do you have access to give praise? Or yeah, because you can always have. Sorry, I'm thinking out loud. Septimus, sorry, get it. Do you have something to say?
Yeah, I think that this question is very important. So, one of the things that we were talking about, Edu and I, last week is that once you become a new member, or maybe even before that, people can dish praise to you, because it'd be nice to be able to dish praise to somebody in orientation, right? For example. But then we were talking about, like, the ability for that new member to start dishing praise, has to be tied to them being part of the praise system, so they have to be validated. The question then came up in that last, the 1 to 2 months, the kind of the move from new member to member. Is an apprenticeship paid, right? Or is that something that is like another version of the community offering, right? Is that so in Costa's case, like, he did the spreadsheet work, and he was just saying he kind of sees that as his initial offering to the community. We are similarly thinking in the Writers Guild that maybe your first story might be a gift to the community. But there are a lot of philosophical questions about that. Like, not everybody can afford to take time off and not get paid and spend time doing work, especially if it's like over the course of a month or two. So there are equity questions that come around that. And so one of the other ideas that Eduardo and I were talking about is, well, maybe one compromise is that during that period you can receive payments, compensation for your work here, but that maybe those are tokens that are vesting, right? And they don't fully vest. You can't actually sell them until until you become a member. these are very rough ideas, but I'm just throwing them out into the conversation right now to since we're looking at these questions.
My thoughts is that people should be able to receive praise as soon as they join. Also, because it would be very hard to put a cap on that technically. Like anyone that's member of the server can receive praise, and SourceCred is also going to be tracking activity, and we can't that would be too complicated to stop that from happening at any point. And then I think people should be incentivized to sign up for praise and give their address and stuff as soon as they join, because that's also an incentive for to show people that we want to reward their contributions and that they are valued here. But then maybe for dishing praise, we could put a cap on as soon as you're a new member, then you can be given the role of praise disher. And maybe when you are a member, you could become a quantifier. We could have something like that. Because then you have a little bit more of an understanding of what a contribution is. You would be more respectful with other members, knowing how to value their work, because you understand a little bit more the effort that goes into it.
Right. All right. Thank you, Levi. Septi, you were going to say something?
Yeah. Regarding what Gideon was saying about when people have need of money and then have their token vested, I think they would not contribute. If they need the money just for living, and then even if you give them tokens, it doesn't make they are available to contribute because their tokens are vested, so they have to pay whatever they need to pay anyway. And another thing resonated a lot with me, and I think we should. I mean, it's not what we're trying to do, so somehow we should change how we communicate. It's what Costa was saying about he was feeling like he was a member right after someone gave him some tasks, and I feel like new contributors should also be able to see needs in the community, and anything that advance the token engineering field, or even if advance efficiency in operations or wherever. If a contributor see it, they can make the proposal of conviction voting, and they should feel they should know they have the agency to make any proposal to the community. And so yeah, in this Figma, what I do not like so much is you need to be part of a working group. I feel you can be part of the community without even going on a meeting on a working group, as long as you help to advance the public goods. And another thing, I'm thinking a lot lately, we're trying to build those systems, somehow to replace government. So in the long, I mean, we don't know because we cannot try, but how those systems would go, how price would work in a country. I think we should start asking us those questions, because then we might have a better solution for scalability. But yeah, those are things I'm thinking. I'll pass it to Paulo.
Yeah, it's a quite complicated subject. I think, especially because I'm landing. I've been here for I think a week, but never participating. So it's my first time here, listening and trying to understand how can I co-create with you. And from my understanding, is a way to incentivize people that they can be able to receive at the first time that they land, but you need to understand the user flow. It's not the best word for this, but the flow that you created, and Gideon was explaining in a very great way. So for me, having the ability to be able to receive at the first moment is great. and it comes with a lot of responsibility. The responsibility of understanding how you can create something that you can receive this token and you can become a member, and how you and the responsibilities that comes with the token that you receive, you know.
All right. Thank you so much, Paulo. Welcome, Aloysius. Nice to see you here. I sent you via DM the link that we are sharing on the screen, and yeah, I actually invite you to take a look at it, and it's based in a lot of your contributions also. So I want to know that. Is there something else someone wants to share regarding this process that we have been sharing today? Manu.
Yeah, I just want to say I couldn't help but think, looking at this diagram and all its different parts, I couldn't help but think how it lends itself to gamification. And I know it is trite within, like, everyone wants to somehow gamify what they're doing, and it isn't there isn't quite a clear understanding of how to structure it. But for example, having quest lists, having status points, having a step-by-step tutorials, having a progress bars, and moving through this diagram, unlocking different milestones. It would be great, but also I anticipate that it would have to be embedded into GitHub and SendHub somehow. Like, there would have to be someone that's consciously looking at all the process and how it evolves over time, and how it fits different people with their different intentions within their community, and then coordinating that into the issues and being like, oh, this issue would fit well with this person, but that person needs to have certain amount of badges and a certain amount of progress, and it needs to be within the 2 weeks, all of that. But I think in the end, like, having that intricacy would, in a way, make it more interesting to people to join. And I mean, imagine running a marathon that you don't know how many miles it has, right? It's just psychologically, it's not going to work. You cannot pace yourself. So having this, it's going to be really good for people to, incentivize them and motivate them to keep contributing to the community. So I mean, massive praise to you, Gideon, and do let me know if you need any help with this, because I'm all over this in terms of incorporating it into how we coordinate around doing tasks.
Thank you, Manu. NT, do you want to say something?
Gideon, you can go ahead if you want to comment.
No, I just wanted a quick clarification, which is that I'm drafting this document, but Edu and I mean, a lot of these ideas are Edu's. So I just want to be very clear about that.
I just wanted to comment on the questions about apprenticeship and vesting tokens. I think apprenticeship probably would depend on the working group. Like, if the working group is anyways going to pay for that task, it's like, just get paid because you're providing the value. But then there are some working groups where you're just sort of shadowing and just listening and learning. That's probably not there's not there's probably not a way to measure that and and interpret that as a contribution. So therefore you could not pay that. Like, for example, Deep Work does that. They have a shadowing program where you can sort of be on the shadow of a project manager, and you go through a session and blah 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 blah, and then you get incorporated. But on the general idea of not paying apprenticeship or vesting tokens, I think that assumes that someone is going to stay at the TEC or commit for a relatively large amount of hours per week. And I guess we sort of know that in DAOs people are just sort of flowing. So I wouldn't think that vesting or something like that is a great idea, especially or maybe for example in the TC where you, because if it was a place where a lot of Web3 newcomers came without not a lot of knowledge about how these things work, it may have some sense. But here where you have sort of learn more and be more like down the rabbit hole, I don't think makes a particular sense to sort of gatekeep in that way, because many people that are here, I think, have contributed, like have some experience with DAOs and these kind of workflows. So yeah, I just wanted to say that.
Thank you, Enti. Aloysius, is there something you would like to share with the rest? And how are you?
I'm good. I hope you guys can hear me. I'm driving, hands
Yes,
free.
we can. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
I was thinking about something with, I don't know, it kind of resonates with like this concept of journeys and kind of hand holding and mentorship and kind of like building continuity. I think about like upskilling and I don't know, like trying to wrap in and like an incentives layer and then some like self-learning and like, I don't know, as I was reading that flow chart on the Figma, I started daydreaming two people working together and maybe there was like a tutorial, like I've been using Do Work a lot, so this is where my brain went. What if there was like a tutorial for how to use Do Work and for how a newcomer could come to like that board and create maybe a Do Work bounty for themselves or something and then like submit a task to it. This would be like a way for us to like flow and track currency to an individual and to like help them be wrapped into the like reward systems too. Because I also see a lot of things on there like, you know, voting and stuff. And I'm like, I see that and I'm like, that's cute. I haven't been able to vote and I've been here for a long time and I'm a trusted seed. So I don't know when that's going to be relative, but it's cute on there. But it's just me being a little snarky about the difference between like our dreams and reality and what I'm seeing and what's real. But yeah, just imagining like opportunities for people to work with one another and skill build also on the tools that we're using in the environment so that everybody like knows how to use these. Like Do Work is cool because people learn how to write in Markdown, and Markdown is like the coder language for like Microsoft Word, and you kind of got to know how to use that for writing on a lot of things. So I don't know. I just think about that and how to wrap rewards layers into it and incentivize people and like keep them here and active, but also be able to track and use like the tools that are around us. I don't know. This is daydreaming.
Thank you so much for It's okay. Thank you so much. We have 2 minutes left. Gideon, is there something you would like to say before closing up?
No, I don't think so. Well, yeah, I guess one quick thing is probably the next area we're going to dive back into is the, you know, going back to the orientation process and this question of education. You know, do we actually test people? What would that look like? How do we do that in a way that's fun, but, you know, not too like, so that's kind of the next wave of stuff. So if people are interested in that, feel free to ping me. Edu and I probably maybe on Friday, I don't know, we'll kind of like jam again. But so if you have ideas on that, particularly, and we're talking to Wesley about the proof of competence, that may be one possible solution. There's probably lots of others too, but so education and testing, and then kind of the orientation process and the checklist of things that would be part of that. That's probably for next week, I'm guessing.
All right.
I wanted to quickly,
Yes, Libby.
just quickly double down on what Zeptiman said of the importance of not making the trajectory stiff, of like there are possibilities of people doing other routes And this is the route we are suggesting for people who don't have the creativity maybe of doing their own or the knowledge needed. And maybe with time we can keep in mind seeing the trajectories that are emerging to build like different use cases kind of thing, user journeys.
Thank you, Livy. One last question for anyone. Does anyone knows what is CSS? CSS as like a study or like a work of study. There has been a few people, 2 or 3 people who entered the Discord and they filled the survey saying CSS, and I have no clue what that means.
Sorry, Edu, it was CCS.
CCS, sorry. Does anyone knows what CCS semester? Does anyone knows what does that mean? I had no clue either. So if anyone figured it out, please share it on the Communitas because we are clueless on who these people, like what is this means and what they are doing there. So anyway, thank you so much everyone who joined today. This was more of a workshop session on this document. We meet usually weekly with Gideon on Fridays. So if you feel like contributing to this or just joining, please feel free to send a message, and looking forward to see you all next Monday.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Edu.
everyone.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye. Take care.
Bye.